I'm Bill Leipold, and welcome to this edition of Breakfast at the Barracks. Joining me today is Jay Tischfield, Macmillan Professor and Chair of the Department of Genetics and Human Genetics Institute in New Brunswick. Jay, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bill.
And thanks for being here. Well, good. I'm glad to have you here. First, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of what you're working on? I think this is one of those fascinating projects across the university.
Oh, well, that's not a short answer, but I'll give it my try. The Department of Genetics is new, and I came here to build it about 11 years ago. And we needed a plan, something different. So we decided to take an entrepreneurial approach.
Okay.
And we established what we now call the RUCDR, or the Rutgers University Cell and DNA Repository. We actually do so much more than that, that the term RUCDR is like KFC now. It's a brand name. And we are a central source for human material for researchers throughout the world. And the federal government, the National Institutes of Health in particular, has mandated that people studying certain diseases in humans send us all their samples for processing. And we process these samples, and we then store them for a bit, and then we send them throughout the world so that different groups working in different places in the world can actually work on the same samples, very large sample sets. And we're talking about way over 150,000 people. Their samples have been processed already. I think we're very closely approaching 200,000. And the RUCDR has created an infrastructure for the Department of Genetics. It's brought in a lot of money into Rutgers. We've had almost $200 million of support in the last 11 years. It's created buildings. We've built, now it'll be 3 new buildings.
Including a brand new one coming online, right?
Including a brand new one coming online next couple months, yeah. And this has created a program that's given Rutgers very high visibility throughout the medical research, genetics research community. We supply, in certain areas like psychiatric diseases, we supply all the samples virtually to all the major universities in the United States, and we have collaborative relationships with Harvard Medical School, Yale Medical School, UPenn, and I could just go on the list. And this, in turn, has attracted faculty to the genetics department, and we have some outstanding researchers, and students get to take classes with these people. The genetics department is small. I like to think of it as a boutique department. We only have about 40 majors a year, and every single student gets to spend at least a year, and some spend 2, 3, and even 4 years working in a world-class laboratory, learning about research and learning about what the opportunities are. 40% of our graduates go on to Ph.D. programs. 25% go to medical school. The others are sought after by New Jersey industry. In the process of doing all this, we've created hundreds of jobs on campus. The RUCDR employs over 100 people.
Amazing.
Not to mention all the faculty in the department and all the support people and the landscaping people who work on the buildings we build, and all the people in New Jersey who supply us with the various things we need to purchase to run the operation, and all the Rutgers administrative people. So I look at it as not so much an academic enterprise, but an enterprise that has academics at its core.
So let's talk a little bit about the academics at its core. A lot of academic work has societal implications. And we know for a fact that, from what you just said, you're involved globally in lots of different initiatives. How do you perceive, or how will this center have a major impact on the global society in dealing with some of the issues that you're dealing with?
Well, I think there are 2 areas I could mention that I think are in the news almost. One of the major areas we're concerned with is drug abuse and alcohol abuse. And as I mentioned before, psychiatric disorders. In the case of drug and alcohol abuse, traditionally society has viewed this as some kind of moral failing, as some kind of personality defect.
Right.
Whereas for the most part, and I don't think everyone agrees on this, we now accept a medical model for these disorders. We view them as having a biological, a biochemical basis, if you will.
Right.
And a lot of the work we do is aimed at uncovering the genetic basis. That is, are these things heritable?
Right.
If your parents were alcoholics, do you have a greater chance of becoming an alcoholic? Traditionally, people would have said, well, you grow up in that kind of environment and your chances are increased.
Right.
But I think research now is becoming overwhelming that says that while that certainly plays a role, environment is very important, there are also genetic factors. There are factors that if you inherit certain genes, you are more liable to become an alcoholic.
Okay.
And we have very good evidence for that now. And much of that evidence has been uncovered through our work. And that's created a lot of controversy because how you treat drug abuse and alcohol, do you put people in prison or do you put them in rehab?
Well, correct.
Yeah.
I know you also do a lot of work with autism.
Yeah.
So can you give us a little bit of kind of what you all are doing with autism in terms of that conversation?
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody talks about the expansion of the number of cases we see in autism, especially in New Jersey. And this is the degree to which we see the expansion is controversial, but the fact that we see this expansion probably isn't at this point.
Okay.
And, you know, obviously, if we're seeing our children being affected with this very serious and overwhelming, in terms of family life, disorder, we'd like to know, you know, why it's increasing.
Right.
So autism also shows very strong heritable issues. If one brother has autism, the other brother has a greater chance of having it. If the brother's a twin, it's even increased.
Okay.
And if it's an identical twin, it's yet
even more
further increased. So we know there are genetic factors and we're studying them, but in this particular case, it turns out to be, we think at this point, an interaction of genes and environment. We're finding that more and more kids with autism have novel kinds of mutations where actually pieces of their DNA are missing, small pieces.
Okay.
And this seems to be involved in the development of the nervous system in the brain as these children are growing and very young. And this seems to be a major factor involved in autism. And a lot of celebrities have become involved.
Right.
They either have children or know people who have children. There are major foundations. We work for the Simons Foundation, who has devoted a large portion of its resources to studying autism.
And I also know, besides autism and alcoholism, you're also working on HIV and AIDS issues.
Well, yeah. We developed a new technology, not to be morbid, but the question of who dies from HIV, who develops AIDS and who dies from it, is a very important one, because then we know who to treat more aggressively and who not to treat so aggressively, because the treatments are not without side effects.
Correct.
So we've been looking at samples. We've been able to extract DNA from very old samples from people who have died.
Okay.
And we're looking, and we're from HIV. Right. And we're comparing these samples in terms of their genetics to people who've lived. And I think the work is too premature to comment on in terms of conclusion.
Correct.
But clearly there are, again, genetic factors involved in how HIV infection progresses.
Okay. If folks are interested in the work that you're doing, and they're interested in terms of the research that you're doing, is there a website that they can go to?
Sure.
Is there a place that they can visit to get more information on kind of what you're going through?
Well, there are lots of ways. We have a website, which just put in RUCDR in one of the search engines like Google, and it'll come right up.
All right.
And in fact, we have public tours. We, in general, have over 1,000 people a year tour through the RUCDR.
Okay.
We have everything from schools to union groups to Rutgers employees.
All right.
And we have several open days.
So there are ways that folks can come in, tour, get more information on the center, be
Absolutely.
able to ask lots of questions in terms of what you're doing and where you're going with
what
the
we
center.
do is very public and very transparent.
Good. I also know that one of the ones we didn't get a chance to catch up on, but I want to learn a little bit more of the work that you're doing with Tourette's syndrome.
Well, that's something new, and we became involved with the Tourette's Center of New Jersey a few years ago. I got a call from a very nice lady who runs that center.
Okay.
And she asked me why we weren't studying Tourette's. And the fact is, I didn't have a very good answer for that question.
Right.
So embarrassed, I said, well, we should. And the state, this is the first project we've actually had where the state of New Jersey has provided support. All of our support comes from the federal government and private sources. But in this case, there were a number of people throughout the state who were interested. Tourette's is a very unusual disorder. It has very unusual symptoms, which are frequently not recognized as a syndrome or a spectrum of symptoms. And kids with Tourette's frequently get in trouble for reasons beyond their control.
Right.
So we started the first project. We opened the first public repository. It's like the movie, if you build it, they will come. So we opened this repository and we made samples available to researchers throughout the world for the first time. And we had requests from Harvard and Yale and Japan and elsewhere for these samples in the first year.
Okay.
And we're also we put together a 11-center collaborative with universities from both coasts and universities in Korea and Holland. And we're now collecting samples, and we have a research project trying to find out the genetic basis of Tourette's. It shows a very strong heritability.
Okay. Wow, amazing. I would love to spend more time with you. Unfortunately, our time's run out. You do some fascinating work, and it's one of those things that I want to encourage people to come over, take a tour of the center, learn more about it.
We love to give tours.
Great. So thanks again for coming. We'll be back
Pleasure.
with you soon. All right. Joining me now is Gloria Bonilla-Santiago, Board of Governors Distinguished Service Professor. Gloria, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You know, you're doing some great work down in Camden, and one of the things that I'm really interested in is the conversation of your charter school. So can you talk to me a little bit where the vision for the charter school came from and kind of the evolution of the charter school?
Yeah, we started in the 1990s under Governor Florio, developing the idea of community schools, and this is how the whole vision was. I wanted to create a community school for the city of Camden, and I wanted to create a better place for children. It was all about saving kids, and it still is about saving kids.
All right. Well, can we talk a little bit about that too? Because I know one of the conversations about Camden is it's one of the poorest districts within New Jersey. It doesn't have some of the best retention and graduation rates in public schools. So talk to me how your school's doing so well, and what the graduation and retention rates are for your students.
Well, the Leap Academy Charter School, as you know, is in partnership with Rutgers University. So I created this wonderful, what I call oasis for the children. And so we have right now about 100% college placement, 100% graduation rate for the first 4 classes that have graduated. We've done exceptionally well. So in many ways, you know, Camden has gotten a bad reputation because of the crime, but Camden is just a wonderful city with wonderful families, wonderful children, and so my work sort of provides sort of a different kind of view about what we're doing there. When you have 100% college placement graduation rates, when the children are doing so well, and this wonderful, what I call oasis, it really begins to change the perspective about what education should really look like for urban cities and for poor children.
So talk to me about this oasis. I know that you're doing really well with the retention rates, but how and in what ways is this an oasis for the children who are attending?
Well, you know, this is it's not a panacea that, you know, because what we had done is we have created high expectations rates for the children. We have parental engagement as a requirement to be part of the school. Rutgers has provided an incredible amount of support through our centers of excellence. We do a lot of work in relationship to pre-college orientation. We have a family clinic. We have law clinic at the school. We got Rutgers very much engaged in working and supporting the school. So there's a lot of work that goes into building this oasis for the children. And then, you know, the kids go for longer day, longer year. We have Saturday academies, required Saturday academies and homework the children have to participate in. We have, you know, pre-college requirement courses, dual credit programs with Rutgers and Rowan. So there's all this comprehensive model that I sort of created to make sure that the children are guaranteed with what I call the promise quality of education that they should be getting.
One of the things you hit on with your charter school was a lot of the research about parental engagement and the conversation about extending the students' year, that the summer they're still engaged, the weekends they're still engaged, so they're all engaged in learning year long rather than just 9 months. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you have your parents engaged and how they're engaged with the school?
Well, from the very beginning of the charter, parents had to sign sort of what we call an agreement with us that they were going to be part of this dream. And you know, one of the things that I actually sort of predicted was that I didn't think parents will be so engaged. That proved run through time because parents did deeply care about their children. So we have a sort of a parent academy where parents are required to come in and work with us. Now, you know, that went from a requirement to what we called, you know, our classes are packed. We got parents working at the school. You know, we have parents helping in the classrooms, in the kitchen. Parents are running programs on Saturdays and in the weekends. The library is open until 8 o'clock for parents to come in and bring their kids and do their homework. So there's a lot of that engagement that is going on. And I also have 5 parents in the governance of the school. So that's really critical. So it's not just involving them, but it's engaging them in a responsible way so that we will not do this without them. And they know that we hold them accountable. So there's a sense of accountability for the children as well. You know, the teachers, everyone here is working in a team to make sure that this thing works.
Okay, so there really is this community model.
It is a community
model. So parents, besides governance, are also part of offering the programs, working alongside with teachers, really engaged. So
and a lot of training. I mean, there's a lot of work that we have done. We partner with foundations. If you look at the profile of the school, you will see that we have major foundation support, as well as the university, partnerships with the Cooper Hospital, L3 Communication, Lockheed Martin. We got everybody engaged in what we're doing.
So parents are learning along with their students.
Correct.
So you really have developed this community of accountability, but this community of learning, which really engages the parents along with the students. You talk a lot already about the weekend programs and the summer programs. So talk to me a little bit how you believe engaging students beyond 5 days or engaging students beyond the traditional 180 days really works to kind of for their retention and recruitment.
Well, you know, this work is about social justice and about equity and about creating space and access for children who've been left out of the system. So in many ways, we had to create a model that actually provided the kinds of services that the children, or actually attended to the kinds of deficits that the children came with. And so in many ways, you know, we have kids that come in there with very little retention about reading and writing levels. We had a lot of challenges in terms of the families, because some of these kids, you know, they had a one-parent family, a grandparent. So our children are just, you know, have so many challenges. So we had to create a model that would allow for them to feel that this was their home, sort of like a community. If I could have done a 24-hour residence, I would have done that. We didn't have the funding to do it, but we created a model in which the children can come anytime during the day, including even if they're on vacations, that they can come back to the school and feel that this is a place where they can come. You know, we provide 3 meals a day. We provide, you know, the library, the support systems at night. So all of these things that we done in terms of longer day, longer year has a lot to do with attending to the needs of the children, because a lot of them don't receive a lot of that at home. So we created sort of what a middle class child gets. As you know, in our own neighborhoods, you know, our children go to tutoring after school. The parents are running around taking them to all kinds of clubs. We created this within our own environment to make sure that these kids get the best that they deserve. And so it's not just, you know, good schooling. It's also a lot of social and emotional support. And now I have, you know, it's very important for you to understand the model. We started K to 12. Now we have birth to 16, because I created a baby academy, which is my latest project, an early learning research academy from 0 to 5-year-olds, because we are sort of a model in which if we admit a child, we admit the brothers and sisters. So it's a sibling model.
Okay, so you admit the family.
So I have about 200 babies that have been born since I opened the school. So the beautiful thing about this model is that now I have all these babies waiting to get in. And then I have a waiting list. As you know, we get the kids admitted into the school through a lottery. And so the waiting list is so massive that what I want to do is I want to be able to now expand. We have created what I called, a model where evidence meets practice, where now we have enough best practices for us to replicate our work and to expand and grow. So my next move is to build 2 more schools in the city of Camden. Probably a kindergarten to 6 in science, technology, math, and engineering, and in a high school also as well.
You talked a lot about partnering with Rutgers, partnering with Rowan. Can you talk to me about partnering with the city of Camden?
Absolutely.
A lot of folks, don't really understand a lot of the work that takes with working a charter school, especially with working with the district, working with the county. So can you explain a little bit about how that happens?
Yeah, this is a true partnership, and and I've been at this for a long time. As this is my area of research and work. So my academic role as a professor is basically to be innovative, creative, and to be entrepreneurial. And so I bring a lot of funding, and then this partnership that I created with the city allows for those partners now to have a role. Not only do we have, like I say, Cooper Hospital in the corporate sector, but downtown Camden, the Board of Education actually has been able to benefit tremendously the school district from what we're doing, because we're bringing their principals, their teachers into our university to learn how to become, how to get a certificate of eligibility to become a principal. And then LEAP serves as sort of like a lab for learning best practices, for observation of teachers, quality, for looking at what we're doing differently in terms of the longer day, longer year. And then the parental piece, which has been really important. That's one program that we have been able to actually replicate into the city. And we also have an early learning initiative in which we work very closely with the early learning community, the 3-4-year-old centers, to make sure that we provide the support and the training. So we're doing massive comprehensive work, and the impact, you can see it in the numbers. You can see it also in the change that is occurring in terms of the outcomes, the 100% college placement, 100% graduation rates, the fact that we have massive waiting lists to, right now, for me to be able to open 2 additional schools or more, I think that dictates the need that there is in the city for major reform, particularly in the area of birth to 16.
One of the things that you brought up earlier, and I think it's interesting as you talk about it, is the governing board, or the board that kind of works with you to kind of put this together, and the fact that this isn't a cheap endeavor. This is a lot of investment, a lot of time. So can you kind of talk to me about this team of the board that works with you, and kind of how the funding for the school came about, and kind of what works?
Well, I'm known for the queen of partnerships. I mean, I'm very good at this, but what drives all of this is the need to save children and to create a better place for them to learn. And so I have attracted the best minds possible, the best foundations, the best people, not only in town but in the state, that are interested in supporting this kind of work. So, so the partnership is made up of Rutgers, the Delaware River Port Authority, Cooper Hospital, the foundations, the banks, the entrepreneurs in the area and the region who are interested in seeing this be successful, so that we can transform it and use it as a model, not only for the state but for the nation. And so this is, the timing right now is critical. You have a president who's speaking about the fact that we need to be accountable. We need to look at the urban child in a different way. We need to provide different alternatives. And then you have a wonderful governor who actually happens to love charter schools, and a wonderful commissioner. So the timing for charters is just could not get better. And I think that we can serve as an alternative for fixing the madness of traditional public schools.
One of the things that always really infuses me is a story of a great child, in terms of kind of where they've come and kind of where they are now. You talk a lot about your 100% graduation rate, your college placement. Can you talk to me a little bit more in specifics about one of your students that you've seen, in terms of kind of they've gone through the school and now they're heading to an institution, they're heading to higher education? Where are they choosing to go to? Where are they choosing to study?
Well, I have the one that stands out, and they all stand out, and I love them dearly. But there's one that stands out who actually got admitted into Brown University, and she's at Brown now. But she got admitted, she was sort of like a 4.0 since she was a baby. She went through LEAP. She never knew what it was to be in a traditional Camden school. We provided safety, love, quality schooling. Her father and her mother were there, although they were separated, supporting her. She graduated, and we gave her, she got $60,000 scholarship to go to Brown because she was the best child. Guess what? She goes to Brown, and when she gets to Brown, she starts, she gets a roommate that is very sports-oriented with a lot of wealthy background, and she just panics, and she says, I've never been with white students. And so she wants to come home. She gets very depressed and she wants to come back home. Right. And she calls everybody and we say, no, you have to stay. You are sort of like our start. And what happens is, she says, she calls me, she says, Dr. Santiago, I really I've never been in an environment with other students, and so I need to be in a smaller school. So I said, well, why don't you transfer out to Rutgers? She says, no, I'm going to go to Drexel. She went to Drexel for a year. And what we learned out of that experience was that we needed to create a program to support urban children to learn how to really navigate a system of higher education with other white kids, because kids in Camden are Black and Latino kids. Right. They've never been with other white kids. And so we learned an incredible lesson. That's why we started the dual program with Rutgers, to make sure that our kids now are taking classes in the 11th and 12th grade, and partnering with Morristown schools so that the kids learn how to work and be with one another. So that was really important. The good news is that, and I had given her a $10,000 scholarship. Right. And so I said, well, I'm taking the money back, and when you decide that you want to go to Brown, you come see me. She come to see me a year later, and she said, Doc, she called me Doc, I'm going to Brown. Brown is holding my seat, I'm ready. And I said, what makes you ready? And she says, you know what, I've been with white folks for a year. I could deal with this. Good for her. And she still have a 4.0, and she's going to her senior years this year, doing phenomenally well. I mean, but there are just tons of stories of kids like that who've been to, Villanova, University of Pennsylvania, a lot of them to state colleges, and of course a lot of them to Rutgers, which is just incredibly important for me.
I can't tell you how much amazing work you're doing, and it's great to kind of hear these success stories.
Right.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time.
Okay.
This time ran really fast, and I would love to have you back to talk about some of the other stuff that you're doing and some of the other projects.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here today, and that's all we have for this time, so we're going to say thanks. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's all this time we have for this edition of Breakfast at the Barracks. For more information about any of the subjects we've discussed here today, please visit our website, rutgers.tv. For all of us at the Rutgers Division of Continuing Studies, I'm Bill Leipold, and thank you for watching.